Kim Jae-won died on Wednesday. He was just walking home after a night shift, a hydrological engineer, 32 years old, coffee in hand, crossing on green, and a truck that did not notice the traffic light. The last thing he felt was asphalt. The last thing he thought was should have slept more. Then darkness. Then heat. The heat came before consciousness, at first just warm, then hot, then unbearable. Jae-won opened his eyes. Sky. Not soul gray. He had never seen a sky like this. White. Bleached by the sun so much that it was impossible to look. The sun was not yellow, almost white, right at the zenith, merciless. Where am I? He turned his head. Sand. Sand everywhere. Fine, reddish red, hot like a frying pan. To the horizon, nothing but sand and stone. Dunes, rocks, dunes again. He tried to stand up. The body was not his. Small, light, thin hands, childish. A child. I am a child. He sat down, looked around. He lay in a small hollow between two dunes, almost no shade. Nothing nearby. No water, no food, no people. I was abandoned. The thought came calmly. Not panic, just a statement. Kim Jae-won's engineering mind worked even in a child's body in the middle of the desert. Fine. Facts. 1. A child about 5 or 6 by feel, small fingers, still has baby teeth. I can feel them with my tongue. 2. The desert is real, not a park, not scenery. The temperature is over 40 for sure. 3. There is no water. This is problem number 1. Without water in such heat, a few hours. Think, Jae-won. Think fast. He looked around with a professional eye. The hollow between the dunes was not accidental. The wind drives the sand, forms folds of the relief. Where there are folds, there is sometimes condensation. At night, the desert cools. Moisture settles on the stones. Stones. He crawled to the nearest flat stone, large, dark. He turned it over with effort, child's hands, hard. Under the stone, the sand was slightly darker, wetter, a little, but it was there. He gathered a handful, squeezed it. Nothing, too little. But it means water was here. That means there is a source somewhere nearby. Underground, small, but there is one. Good. This is good. He got to his feet unsteadily. The child's body would not obey. Staggered, stayed upright. The first task, find people or water, preferably both at once. He looked at the sun, zenith. So it is noon. Moving at noon is the worst decision. Maximum heat, maximum evaporation. He needed to wait it out in the shade and move at sunset. But there was no shade. He looked around again. Rocks. Rocks over there. Rocks give shade. About 200 meters to them. In a child's body under this sun, a risk. But staying here is certain death. Jae-won corrected himself. He was used to thinking as Jae-won. It was his thinking, his knowledge. The body was a child's. The brain was his. Let's go. He walked toward the rocks. Slowly. Save every step. Breathe through the nose, mouth closed, less evaporation. Keep the head lowered, cover the face with the hand, minimal protection from direct sun. 200 meters. He walked for a long time, fell once, the hot sand burned his palms. Got up, walked, reached them. In the shade of a large stone, he sat down, leaned his back against the relatively cool stone. Good. The first step was done. He closed his eyes. Not to sleep, just to save strength, and started thinking. While he waited, he took inventory, not of things, of knowledge. Kim Jae-won, hydrological engineer. Specialization, water supply systems in arid zones. Worked on projects in Central Asia, North Africa, gave lectures, published papers. What do I know about water in the desert? 1. Condensation. At night, the temperature drops, moisture from the air settles on cold surfaces. Stones, metal, plants. It can be collected. 2. Groundwater. In deserts, there are aquifers deep down, sometimes shallow. Indicators, certain plants, soil type, wadi relief, dry riverbeds. 3. Dew. Early in the morning, in some deserts, there is enough dew to survive. It collects on plants, stones. 4. Atmospheric water collectors. Simple constructions from available materials. Fog and dew into dew. What do I know about survival? Move only at night or at dawn and dusk. Maximum shade during the day. Clothing that is closed, light-colored, protects better than bare skin. Food is secondary, water is primary. What do I know about desert peoples? Tuaregs, Bedouins, Rajasthani tribes. Common logic, movement after water, knowledge of the terrain, traditional ways of collecting water. Qanats, Fogaras, underground aqueducts, thousand-year-old systems that work. He opened his eyes. This knowledge is enough to survive, but alone it is hard. He needs people. And for people he needs something to offer. What can a 5-year-old child in the middle of the desert offer? Knowledge. Only knowledge. So find people. Fast. He looked at the sun. It had begun to slide westward. Another 3 hours until acceptable temperature. He began to study the terrain. Before sunset, he found a track. Not at once. He had to come out of the shade and watch his footing carefully. A camel, a clear imprint of a wide hoof in the hardened sand. Old, maybe a day, maybe 2. But it was there. Where there is a camel, there are people. He followed the track. The tracks led northeast, he determined by the sun. Walk. He walked. The child's body got tired quickly. Jaewon was getting used to controlling it like an unfamiliar machine. Short steps, even pace, breathe evenly. 1 hour, 2. The sun was setting, the temperature was dropping. Quickly, as always in the desert. Just now heat, now a sharp wind, cold. The night desert kills differently than the day one. Dehydration and hypothermia at the same time. He needed to find people before dark. Another half hour, and then the smell. Smoke. Barely noticeable, wood and something animal. Dung, fire, there. He went toward the smell. Beyond the next dune, light. A small camp. 3 tents, dark cloth, low. 2 camels. Figures by the fire in long clothes, faces covered. People. Jaewon stopped. Carefully. Unknown tribe, unknown customs. A child outsider could be received in different ways, but there is no choice, either them or death. He took a step forward, toward the light. They noticed him at once. One of the people by the fire stood up sharply, hand to belt. Jaewon raised his hands, a universal gesture. I am not a threat. He froze. The man by the fire watched. The others stood too. They spoke among themselves. The language was unfamiliar. Not Arabic, not Turkic. Something of its own. This world is not mine. Another language, other people. Bad. Without language, almost nothing. Child, the squeezed card. Jaewon deliberately took a step forward unsteadily, swaying, and fell to his knees. He was not pretending. He truly fell, the body exhausted, a day without water. And he cried. Not truly there were no tears, dehydration, but the sound. A child's crying, quiet, real fear that somewhere beneath the engineering thoughts really lived. I am in a child's body in the middle of a desert, in a world I do not know. There is fear? Real. He cried, and it worked. From behind the men, a woman came out. Quickly, decisively pushed aside with her hand the man whose hand was on his belt. Came up to Jaewon, squatted beside him. Voice soft. The words incomprehensible. The tone was understandable. Everything is all right. You are safe. She took him in her arms. The small body was light, easy to lift. Carried him to the fire. Jaewon allowed it. The first step was taken. He was among people. The first thing they gave was water, a small leather bag. The woman, young, about 25, brought it to his lips. Jaewon forced himself to drink slowly. First rule of knowledge. After severe dehydration, you must not drink quickly. The stomach will reject it. Slowly in small sips. He drank slowly. The woman watched in surprise. A child who knows how to drink slowly when he very much wants to drink is strange. Remember that. Do not do extra strange things. You are a child. Behave like a child. He drank his fill. Lay down by the fire, the woman covered him with rough cloth. People were talking around him, speaking among themselves, about him, judging by the looks. Listen. Remember? He listened. 3 men by the fire of different ages. The eldest, gray beard, obvious authority. The middle one about 35, a scar on his chin. The young one almost a boy, about 16. The woman who had brought him was called Nira. The old man, something like Kazal, Or Hazal, words, 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 learn the language. Words. This was the top priority task. He closed his eyes, not to sleep, to listen. By night he had understood 10 words. Water ash, fire nur, looks like Arabic, maybe a related language. Camel Kalen, child Biru, stranger dark. Where from sounded like a question. Radon? Sleep, sir. Eat something with ma, name nam? And the main word, the one they said often, with heaviness, with worry. Karim, drought, or thirst, or death from thirst. They repeated it often. This word is the key to why they are here and what state they are in. He truly fell asleep, the body took its due. Last thought. Tomorrow I begin learning the language. A week to speak at a basic level, a month to explain the first solution. This is the plan. Morning. He opened his eyes. Dawn, the violet sky turning orange. Beautiful. Dangerous, soon the heat. Nira was already by the fire, cooking something. Jaewon sat up, looked around professionally. Camp, 3 tents, 1 large living one, 2 smaller, storage, livestock. 9 people, 3 men, 3 women, 2 children, and an old woman. A small group. Not a tribe, a family, or a small clan. Camels, too, both in poor condition. Their ribs were visible, little water, clear enough. Water reserves, I see 4 leather bags. Small ones. For 9 people and 2 camels, that is a day, 2 at most. Crisis, they are in crisis. Nira noticed that he was awake. Brought something in a bowl, thick, grainy, hot. Porridge of something. Acrid spice smell. He took the bowl, ate. Not because it was tasty, because it was necessary. Nira, he said. She turned around, was surprised. Nam Jaewon, he said. Pointed at himself. His name. Let them know what he is called. Nira repeated something, tried to pronounce it. It did not come out exactly Jabon, but understandable. Nam Jaewon, he repeated, then pointed at her. Nira, she smiled, nodded. Contact established. Now learn the language. The next 3 days, only that. He pointed at objects, asked with his eyes, repeated. Again, again. A child learning a language is normal. It surprises no one. Nira turned out to be a patient teacher without words, intuitively understood what he wanted. She pointed, named, nodded when he repeated correctly. First day, objects. Fire, water, earth, sky, sand, stone, tent, clothes, food, hand, leg, eyes. Second day, actions. Walk, eat, drink, look, listen, speak, sleep, carry, wait. Third day, the main thing. Ash water. Ash karam little water? Or bad water? Or thirst? Raw ash? Where is water? Old Hazal heard this on the 3rd day. How Jaewon asked Nira raw ash, and pointed into the distance. He came over, squatted opposite, watched, studied. Jaewon met his gaze calmly. Did not look away. A child who does not look away from an old man is strange. But let it be. More important is to establish contact with the authority. Hazel said something, slowly. Pointed at him. Radan Biru. Where are you from, child? Jaewon thought for a second. What to answer? A legend. He needed a legend. He pointed to nowhere, then spread his hands. Lost. I do not know where from. Hazal watched for a long time. He does not believe him? Not yet. This is normal. Then the old man pointed to the horizon, said a few words slowly as if important. Dan Karim. Ash Karim. Nurma Karim. It is bad there. Little water. Little of everything. A warning or an explanation of the situation. Jaewon nodded seriously, then pointed to the ground under their feet, then downward, with his hands a digging motion. Ash, he said. Water. There, below. Hazel watched. Was silent for a long time. Then went to the other men, spoke to them. Jaewon heard his own name, Jabon, and the word ash several times. They got interested. Good. On the 4th day, Hazal took him with him. He simply indicated, get up, we are going. They left early before the heat. Hazal, the man with the scar, his name was Raka, and Jaewon. 1 camel. Jaewon was seated in front, small, light. They rode in silence. Jae-won looked at the relief professionally. Here was a former riverbed. You could tell by the shape, a gentle concavity, the sand different, darker. A wadi, a dry riverbed. In a wadi, groundwater is close to the surface, almost always. That is the rule. But he needed to understand how close, and whether it is here at all. An hour later, Hazal stopped the camel, looked around, said something to Raka. He nodded with the look of a man agreeing with bad news. They had gone somewhere and found nothing. This is a scouting trip in search of water, and they had come to the conclusion that there was none here. Jae-won got off the camel, walked to the edge of the wadi, lay on his stomach, pressed his ear to the ground. An old method, primitive, but sometimes it works. Underground streams create a vibration that can be felt. He lay there, listened, silence, but under his palm, barely noticeable. Dampness, not dry. There is moisture in the soil. He stood up, looked around. Plants. Hazal and Raka watched him, stayed silent. Jae-won walked slowly along the wadi, looking under his feet. There was a small shrub there, gray-green, alive. In the desert, a living plant is water. A plant does not grow a meter above the soil surface without access to water. He approached the shrub, squatted down, touched the soil, slightly darker, slightly denser, pointed it out to Hazal, tapped the ground here. Then made a digging motion with his hands downward, again and again. Hazal watched. Distrust. They had probably already dug here, or in similar places. And found nothing, Jae-won thought. How to explain without language why exactly here, exactly now? He picked up a stone, flat. He drew on it with his finger in the dust on the surface. A wavy line below, groundwater. Arrows up, it rises. A dot, this shrub. A straight line down from the dot, dig. He showed Hazal. The old man took the flat stone, studied the drawing. For a long time, a very long time. Then said something to Raka. Raka answered skeptically. Gesture with the hand, nonsense, a child, what does he know? Hazal looked at Jae-won once more. Something in the old man was thinking, weighing. They are dying of thirst, nothing to lose. Hazal said something short to Raka. He fell silent, nodded, took from the bag on the camel a tool, something like a sharpened stake and a small shovel. Held it out to Jae-won, no, not to him, to himself. Took it himself. Began to dig where Jae-won had pointed. They dug for a long time. First Raka, then Hazal. Deeper, deeper. Jae-won sat nearby and watched. Half a meter, a meter. The soil changes, darker, denser. 1.5 meters. It should be there. It should. Raka stopped, wiped his face. Looked at Hazal, nothing. Hazal looked at Jae-won. In his eyes, the last question. Continue or not? Jae-won gestured a little more, just a little. Raka, with the look of a man losing his last patience, dug again, and again. And then... the shovel went into something soft, dark, wet. Raka froze, dug more carefully. From under the shovel, water slowly, lazily began to fill up. Dark, muddy, but water. Real. Silence for a few seconds. Then Raka shouted, loudly, joyfully, to the sky. Hazel dropped to his knees, quietly, placed his hands on the ground. Gratitude, prayer, something very personal. Jae-won sat and watched. Water. They found it. This is only the beginning. This source is small, 2 days for the group, maybe 3. A system is needed. Something permanent is needed, but for now let them rejoice. Raka drew water, the first handfuls muddy. Gave it to Hazal, he drank. They filled a bag slowly, the water came in slowly. Then Raka walked up to Jae-won, looked at him. Something had changed in his gaze. The skepticism was gone, not entirely, but less. He held out the water bag, the first sip to him. This is a gesture, an important gesture, recognition. Jae-won took it, drank, warm, muddy, taste of earth. The best water he had drunk in his life, in both lives. They returned different. The camel loaded with 2 full bags. Hazal rode straighter. Raka was saying something animatedly, gesturing. Jae-won listened, caught words, and he understood Raka was already telling the story. How they found water. How Biru the child showed the place. Biru Ash he heard several times. Child Water, or the child who knows water. A good nickname, let it be. They returned at sunset. Nira was the first to see the water bags, ran to meet them, grabbed them, pressed them to herself, then set them down, ran to the others. The camp came alive. The water was distributed carefully, Hazal commanded. In order, children, old women, women, men. The camels last. Jaewon observed. The hierarchy of distribution. The weak first. That is right. Hazal is a wise old man, not just an authority, a real leader. After water, fire, food. And for the first time in 4 days, Hazal addressed Jaewon directly. Before everyone, a long speech. Incomprehensible, but the tone was clear. He was presenting him to the group, explaining what had happened, then pointed at him, said one word, everyone around repeated it, questioningly, affirmatively with different intonations. Danvari. It means something, something important. Jaewon looked at Nira, she was sitting nearby. Quietly asked, Danvari Ran Nam? Danvari, whose name is that? Nira looked at him, understood something in the question. Danvari Biru Ash, she said. Nam Danvari Jabon. Danvari, child of water. Name Danvari Jabon. Hazal gave him a name. Danvari, the one who knows water, the one who finds water. The child received a place in the group, not just picked up, named. Jaewon sat by the fire, Kim Jaewon. Hydrological engineer, 32 years old, died on Wednesday. Danvari, a child who knows water. 5 years old, alive. Beginning. 3 months and he was already speaking. Not perfectly, with an accent, with mistakes, confusing word order, but he spoke. Understood almost everything, answered clearly. A child learns a language quickly, this is biology. A child's brain is made for languages. Jaewon used this as a tool. He knew now. The group was called Dari Hal, the Hal family or the Hal clan. Once there had been more of them, 20 people, now 9. Kareem is not just drought. Great Kareem, that is how they said it. Something happened several years ago. A great drought that killed all who did not leave. Some left for other tribes, some died. Dari Hal survived? Barely. They wandered in the triangle of 3 points, 3 water sources. All 3 weak, unstable. One dried up in summer. The second was bitter, animals drank only in extreme need. The third was far away, a 3-day journey. So their world is a triangle of water, and the triangle is shrinking. Hazal is the elder, 60 years old, maybe more. Knows this desert like his own hand. Raka is his son, the main hunter and scout. Distrustful, sharp, but after the story with the water, he accepted Jaewon, in his own way. Nira is Raka's wife. Kind, practical, became something like a mother for Jaewon. 2 children, Sala, a girl of 7, and Mir, a boy of about 4. His peer by body. He played with Mir, that too was camouflage. A child should play. Jaewon played, and observed, and thought. After 3 months, the first real conversation with Hazal. Evening. Everyone was asleep. The old man sat by the dying fire. Jaewon beside him. Danvari does not sleep, said Hazal. I am thinking. What does little Danvari think about? Pause. Choose your words correctly. About water. Pause. Hazal, I want to say something important. The old man looked at him. A 5-year-old child saying, I want to say something important is strange. Hazel had long understood that Danvari was a strange child. Accepted it. Speak. Our 3 sources are little. Jaewon chose his words carefully. Soon very little. I know how to make it more. Silence. You are small, said Hazal. Not roughly, thoughtfully. The body is small. Pause. The knowledge is great. Hazal looked at him for a long time. Where does your knowledge come from, Danvari? This question is the main one, the legend. He had thought about it for 3 months. Ready? I remember dreams, said Jaewon. In the dreams, an old man. He taught me. About water, about earth, about stones. Pause. Maybe an ancestor. Maybe a spirit of the desert. I do not know. Hazal was silent. In the cultures of desert peoples, spirits, ancestors, dreams are reality, not superstition. It is a way of explaining the world. A child dreamed of by wise old men is not a strangeness. It is a blessing. What does your old man from the dreams say? Hazal asked slowly. He says water is everywhere. You need to know how to find it. You need to know how to collect it. You need to know how to store it. Pause. You found water in the wadi, said Hazal. That is true. That is small. I know something greater. The old man looked at him for a long time, a very long time, weighing. Then, tell me the greater thing, Danvri. Jaewon exhaled. There it is, the beginning of the real thing. They talked until dawn. Jaewon explained slowly in simple language with drawings on the ground. Hazal listened, sometimes asked, sometimes was silent, thinking. 3 main ideas. The first, condensation collectors. Night dew, a simple construction. Second, a connet, an underground aqueduct. This is difficult but possible, long, but a permanent source. Third, shade and cooling. Survival is not only about water, it is about temperature. Lower the heat, less water is needed. He began with the first simple one. Drew on the ground, a pit, stones in the pit. Cloth stretched over the top in a cone, descending to the center. At night, dew settles on the cloth, runs down the cone, drips into a vessel inside the pit. Surash, said Jaewon. Night water. Surash? Night water? Dew. Hazal looked at the drawing. Does it work? A little, honestly. Not much water, but every night. Stable. Every night is good, said Hazal slowly. We need cloth. We need stones. Pause. We can make it tomorrow. Hazal looked at him. A 5-year-old child says we can make it tomorrow. He said nothing, just nodded. In the morning, Hazal gathered everyone, told them. Jaewon listened, already understood almost everything. Raka was skeptical. A few words, child, game, why? Hazal said briefly, something like, we try. It will not be worse. Raka fell silent. Hazal's authority was absolute. Jaewon guided as much as he could in the body of a 5-year-old. Showed with gestures. Drew. Spoke in simple words. A pit 1/2 meter deep, 1 meter wide. Dark stones at the bottom, they hold the cold better at night, cool more strongly. Any vessel in the center. A wooden bowl, a leather bag. Stretch the cloth over the top in a cone. The center of the cone above the vessel. Secure the edges around the perimeter of the pit with stones. They built it together, Nira and Sala. The men watched with the look of people who do not want to participate in a child's game but have nowhere to go. At one point, Raka silently picked up a stone and put it where it needed to go. Progress. By noon it was ready, a small construction. Ungainly. We wait for night, said Jaewon. Raka snorted something. Left. Hazal sat beside the construction. Watched. Danvari, he said. Yes? If it does not work, nothing. Pause. If it works, you did a good thing. It works, said Jaewon, confidently, because he was confident. Not 100%. Much depends on the humidity of the air, the temperature of the night. But in principle, it works. It is a known technology. Hazal looked at him. You are a very confident child. My old man from the dreams was confident, said Jaewon. The old man laughed for the first time, quietly, shortly, but real laughter. He did not sleep at night, waited. Before dawn, he approached the construction, carefully lifted the edge of the cloth, dark, hand down, felt for the vessel, fingers wet, water, a little. By volume, maybe half a glass, less than he wanted. But it was there. He sat beside it, waited for dawn. When the camp began to wake, he went to Nira, took her hand, led her to the construction, lifted the cloth, showed the bowl. Nira dropped to her knees, touched the water, looked at him. Ash, she said softly, in amazement. Surash, Jaewon corrected. Night water, Nira called out. Loudly, Raka looked into the bowl for a long time, then looked at the sky as if the answer were there. Then at Jaewon. Raw ash? He asked. Where did the water come from? From the sky, said Jaewon. At night the sky is cold. Water in the air settles on the cold. Pause. The cloth is cold. Water settles on the cloth. Runs down. Raka was silent, thinking something. Little, he said at last. 1 construction is little, Jaewon agreed. 10 is more. 100 is a lot. Raka looked at him. Something was changing. Slowly, reluctantly, but changing. Danbury, said Raka. For the first time, he called him by name. Before that, just child. Shall we make more? We shall make more, said Jaewon. The next 2 weeks they built. Not only condensation collectors, Jaewon thought more broadly. Looked at the camp the way an engineer looks at a site. What works badly? What can be improved? Where the losses are? Losses are everywhere. Water in leather bags evaporates. Temperature 50 degrees? Leather is not a sealant. They lose 20% of their reserves simply during crossings. The tents are dark. They absorb heat. Inside it is 10 degrees hotter than outside. People drink more water because they overheat. They cook over an open fire in the middle of the day. Maximum heat. The point is zero. They heat the air around themselves. All this can be fixed, not at once. Gradually, but he began with water. He placed 10 condensation constructions around the perimeter of the camp, not by accident, where the relief created small airflows at night. Cold air flows downward along the relief. Where it flows, there is more humidity. Basic meteorology. Every morning around, he collected water. He kept track in his head how much which construction gave more. Optimization. After a week, he understood. 3 constructions on the northeastern slope gave 3 times more than the others. He moved half there. The result doubled. Not much. Altogether, from 10 constructions, 3 to 4 liters at night. For 9 people, an extra cup each, not much. But every night, without effort. Just collected in the morning. Raka watched all this silently. Helped already without reminders. Simply saw what needed to be done and did it. A practical man. Accepted the logic when he saw the result. One evening he came over. Sat beside Jaewon. Danbury. Yes, Raka. You said there is something greater. Greater than Surash. Jaewon looked at him. Raka himself is asking. This is important. Not Hazal, not Nira. Raka is the one who does the physical work. If Raka wants, he will build anything. There is something greater. What? Underground water. Large. Pause, but hard to find. Hard to get. Time and a lot of work are needed. How much time? Depends on the place. Maybe a month. Maybe more. Raka thought. And if we find it and get it, then water always. Not 3 sources. 1. Ours. Pause. We can live in one place. Not wander. Silence. This is a revolutionary thought for a nomad. Live in one place. Not move for water. Raka looked into the fire. My father wandered. His father wandered. Quietly. All Darihal always wandered. I know. That is right. That is our way. Your way is right, said Jaewon carefully. But the world is changing. Great Kareem came. Maybe the nomadic way became harder? A long silence. Raka did not answer. Stood up, left. He was not offended, he was thinking. That is good. Do not rush. Let it ripen. While it ripened, he worked on the second problem. Temperature. It was not hard to explain to Hazal. The old man understood quickly. If people are less hot, they drink less water, said Jaewon. That is true, Hazal agreed. But how? Shade. Proper shade. And white color. Repaint the tents, or change the fabric to light-colored. Light fabric reflects the sun. Inside it is cooler by 15 degrees. Anyone who lived in the desert knows this. Tuaregs, Bedouins, white clothing, white tents. Not tradition. Physics. But why is the Darihal fabric dark? He asked Nira. Dark hides, she explained. A dark tent cannot be seen from afar. They were hiding. From someone. Interesting. Remember that. Nira? He asked carefully. From whom were you hiding? Nira was silent for a while. From Kor, she said. A word with an unpleasant aftertaste in her voice. Kor, a name or a title. Something bad. Who is Kor? A big tribe. Pause. They take water. They take food. Sometimes they take people. Raiders, or a dominant tribe that exacts tribute from the weak. This changes the picture, so nature is not the only enemy. There is a human threat. Dark tents are camouflage. Logical. Does Kor know about Darihal? He asked. They know, but we are small. Nira shrugged. There is nothing to take from us. Nothing to take. That is until there is nothing. If we build a water system, there will be something to take. We need to think about that in advance. But first survive, then defend ourselves. They solved the light fabric simply. Dari Hall had spare fabric, light beige, unused. Why they had not used it, Nira explained. Bad, rough, uncomfortable? Jaewon asked for it for an experiment. Stretched an awning over part of the camp, not a tent, just an awning. High with a gap so air could pass through. Double effect reflects direct sun and leaves an air gap for ventilation. On the very first hot noon, the difference was noticeable. Under the awning, it was easier to breathe. Sala, the 7-year-old girl, was the first to sit under the awning. Then Mir. Then without words, Nira brought her work under the awning. Voting with their feet. The most convincing kind. In the 5th month, the meeting that changed everything. Dari Hall were standing by the second source. Bitter, but forced. There was not enough water. Jaewon was working on another drawing in the sand, thinking about a canal, about an underground aqueduct. Calculations in his head. Depth of the water table, slope of the relief, distance to the camp. Raka ran into the camp. Fast, agitated. Hazal, Tiri are coming. A new word. Tiri. The camp changed instantly. The men stood up. The women pulled the children close. Hazal rose slowly, but he rose. Tension. But not panic. Not core then. A few minutes later they arrived. A large group, about 30 people. The camels were loaded. People in blue and gray clothes. They had weapons, spears, knives, but not threateningly. A man of about 50 stepped forward, large, broad, dark skin, white teeth, calm. He spoke with Hazal for a long time. Jaewon listened and caught the meaning. Tiri are another clan. They wander a parallel route. They came to this source, it is their right, a shared source. But there is too little water for everyone. Resource conflict? Classic. Hazal gestured. Offered something. The Tiri leader shook his head. The negotiations reached a dead end. Jaewon watched. 30 people plus 9. 39 people at one small bitter source. Not enough for everyone. But a bitter source is not a sentence. The bitterness is most likely magnesium salts. Can be filtered? Stop. Can be filtered. He stood up, walked to Hazal. The old man glanced sideways. Now is not the time. Hazal quietly. I know how to make bitter water good. Hazal froze, looked at him, then at the Tiri leader, said something to him. The leader looked at Jaewon in surprise, then with an expression of what kind of child is this? Hazal said something again, insistently. The Tiri leader raised his hand. Good. Let the child speak. Everyone looked at Jaewon, a 5-year-old child. Everyone is waiting, calmly. You know what to do. Jaewon walked to the source, scooped water into his palm, smelt it. The smell was specific, sulfurous with saltiness. Most likely magnesium, calcium, possibly sulfur. Simple filtration through layers of charcoal and sand will reduce most of it. He looked around. Charcoal. Charcoal is needed. From the fire. Nira, he called. Bring charcoal from the fire. Nira brought old ash, pieces of charcoal. The Tiri leader watched in confusion. Jaewon took 2 pieces of cloth, placed one on a stone, poured a layer of fine clean sand, then a layer of crushed charcoal, then another layer of sand. A rough filter. Primitive. But it will remove some of the salts and suspended matter. He slowly poured the bitter water on top. Waited. It dripped from below. Slowly, drop by drop. He gathered it into his palm. Drank it. Better. Much better. Still a little bitter, but drinkable. Fine for people. Good for camels. He held out his palm with the drops to the Tiri leader. He watched. For a long time. Then bent down, tasted from his palm, straightened up. His face changed. Said something to his people. Everyone stirred, began talking. Then he turned to Hazal. A long conversation. Jaewon listened. Understood about half. The Tiri leader named Barak asks where the child is from. Hazal explains, Danvari knows water. Barak is surprised, wants more. Hazal is cautious, but speaks. Barak thought. At the end of the conversation, Barak approached Jaewon. Squatted to be at eye level. Looked. Smart eyes. Attentive. This man does not make decisions quickly. Are you Danvari? He asked in the language of Dari Hall with an accent, but understandable. Dunvari, Jaewon confirmed. Little Dunvari knows much. I know a little. A little, Barak repeated. Smirked. You made bitter water good. Is that a little? Jaewon was silent. Can you do more? Barak asked. Depends on what is needed. Water is needed. A lot. Darihal have little. Tiri have little. Everyone has little. Pause. Great Kareem took half of what there was. I know. What can you do? Jaewon thought. The moment is important. Offer too little, you will not hook them. Offer too much, they will not believe. A 5-year-old child promising a large water project sounds like a fairy tale. Balance. I know where there is underground water, he said. Large, not small sources. Real. Pause. We need to look for the right place. We need to dig. For a long time. Pause. But if we find and open it, water for everyone. Not for a day, for years. Barak listened, was silent, then stood up, went to his people, spoke among them for a long time. Hazel came up to Jaewon. Quietly, are you sure about what you said? I am sure that such water exists. Pause. I am not sure we will find it quickly. Barak is an important man, said Hazel. He has many people. If he says it, they will dig. Pause. But if there is nothing, they will leave and tell others. That Danvari is a liar. Jaewon looked at the old man. Reputation. In a world where information is passed orally from clan to clan, reputation is everything. Hazel, said Jaewon, I am not rushing. Tell Barak, first I search for the place, find signs. Only then do we dig. If there are no signs, we do not dig. Hazel thought. Reasonable, he said. Passed it on to Barak. Barak listened, then nodded. Agreed. The next 10 days were scouting. Barak gave 2 of his people experienced trackers. Raka went himself. Hazel stayed with the camp. 4 people and a child. Jaewon directed the search. What to look for. First, wadis. Old, dry riverbeds. Even if the surface is dry, underground the water follows the old channels. Second, soil type. Dark, slightly darker than the surroundings, a sign of moisture. Clay inclusions retain water. Third, plants, specific species. In this desert, he does not know which ones. But the principle is the same. Deep root system, living plants in a dry place. Fourth, geology. Cracks in rock formations, water accumulates there. Limestone formations are porous, hold water. Fifth, animals. Where animals drink, there is water. Tracks to a certain point. Birds. They walked methodically. Jaewon looked at the relief, told Barak's trackers where to go. They exchanged glances but went, the child is strange, but the leader said listen. On the first day he found an old wadi. Wide, long, dry. The soil darker, a good sign. But they probed with a rod, the soil goes into dryness. Too deep for manual digging. He noted it in his mind. A promising place for the future. There are no tools now. On the third day, rocks. Limestone. Jaewon stopped. Limestone is a good sign. Porous. Water seeps through and accumulates in cavities. He went along the rocky ridge. Look at the base. Where the rock meets the ground, that is where it seeps if there is any. He walked slowly, meter by meter. At the 80th meter he stopped. At the base of the rock a small patch. Dark. And a plant. One, small, weak, but alive. There. Here, he said. The trackers exchanged glances. Raka came over, squatted, touched the ground. Damp, he said in surprise. We dig, said Jaewon. They dug all day. 1 meter, 1.5. The soil was darkening, a good sign. 2 meters. The shovel went into a crack in the limestone, and from the crack water began to come, slowly but steadily. Not a stream, not a spring, not that strong, but constant. Even a pressure aquifer. Water under the pressure of the rock rises by itself. The trackers watched. Raka sat down on the ground right by the pit. Ash, he said softly. Ash, Dan. Big water. Not big yet, said Jaewon, but real. Permanent. Pause. We need to widen it, arrange it, so it does not collapse, so it is clean. Raka looked at him. That look was different. Not skepticism, not surprise. Something like respect. From Raka, that is a lot. They returned to the combined camp. Barak listened to the trackers, not Jaewon, his own people. Right, he trusts his own. The trackers spoke for a long time. Jaewon understood. They were confirming. There is water. The child found it. Barak stood up, came to Jaewon. What is needed to arrange it? Jaewon thought quickly, clearly. What is needed to turn a small crack into a functional well? First, widen the pit. Remove excess soil around the crack so water can come in more freely. Second, reinforce the walls, otherwise it will collapse. Stones. Line the walls of the well with stone without mortar, dry masonry. Third, a cover, so it does not evaporate and get dirty. A simple wooden cover, or a stone. Fourth, shade around the well. The less direct sun, the less evaporation. Fifth, drainage, so that the water that is pulled out and spilled runs away from the well. Otherwise it will wash it out. It will collapse. Many hands in several days, said Jaewon. Stones. Wood, if there is any. There is little wood, said Barak. Far to carry. Stones are enough. How many days? 3 to 4 if there are many people. Barak looked. You are small, Danvari. 5 years old. Pause. How do you know all this? Legend. The old man in dreams, said Jaewon. He built such wells all his life. Why you? Why not an adult? A good question. I do not know, said Jaewon honestly. Maybe adults do not listen to dreams. Barak looked, then laughed. Loudly, sincerely. Turned to his people, told them something. They laughed too. Good. Laughter relieves tension. Good, Danvari, said Barak. We build the well, you show how. 4 days. 30 Tiri people and 9 Darihal worked together. Jaewon directed them, as much as a 5-year-old child could direct 39 adults. Not by commands, by explanations. Drew in the sand, showed with gestures, spoke slowly in simple words. The adults looked at the 5-year-old. Some laughed good-naturedly. Then they began to do as he showed and saw that it was right. And they stopped laughing. Reputation was built slowly, brick by brick, literally. Day 1, widening the pit. Here it is important not to damage the crack. Dig around it carefully. Jaewon stood nearby and said where they could not. Day 2, laying the walls. Dry masonry, flat stones, laid in layers. The lower ones tighter, the upper ones projecting slightly inward, narrowing the throat. This stabilizes it. Jaewon showed which stone goes where. Barak's tracker named Vel, a large silent man, turned out to be a born mason. He grasped the principle quickly. Then he worked on his own. Day 3, drainage and platform. Around the well lay a horizontal platform of stones. A slight slope away from the center spilled water flows to the side, not into the well. They did not understand this at once. It had to be explained twice. Day 4, cover and shade. An awning over the well, drive-in stakes, stretched light-colored cloth. High air passes through, but there is no direct sun. By the evening of the 4th day, it was ready. Barak stood by the well, looked at the clean water at the bottom, depth 2.5 meters. The water had risen to 1.5 meters. Smooth, dark, calm. He lowered a rope with a leather bucket. Raised it, tasted it, clean, not bitter, not muddy, just water, not long silence by the well. 39 people stood around it. Then someone began. Quietly, rhythmically, something like singing. One voice, then a second, then all. Jaewon stood and listened. An unfamiliar language, an unfamiliar melody. But the meaning was clear without words. Gratitude, joy, relief that comes when the fear of death goes away. Nira quietly stood beside him, took his hand, held it. Like a mother who is not his mother but became one. Jaewon stood by the well he had built. Kim Jaewon, hydrological engineer, built the first well in this world. He is 5 years old, one bridge behind him. Ahead, who knows how many. But the beginning has been made. The day after the celebration, problems came. Not enemies. Worse, questions. Barak sat opposite Jaewon. Serious. Without celebration. Danvari. A talk. I am listening. One well is good. But there are 39 of us. In one place. There is no fodder for camels here. No pasture. No food. Pause. One well solves water. It does not solve the rest. Correct. Absolutely correct. Water is a necessary condition, but not sufficient. Where there is water, food is needed. Where there is food, land is needed. Where there is land, it needs to be worked. This is the next step. A big step. Barak is right, said Jaewon. The well is the first, not the last. What next? Land. Pause. Near water, there is land. There you can grow. A little, but your own. Barak watched. In the desert, nothing grows. It does not grow by itself. Pause. If correctly, it grows. Did you see this in dreams? Yes. Barak thought for a long time. Danbury, he said at last, I will tell you something. Honestly, I am listening. My people are tired. They walked a long time, found water, joy. But they will not be able to build something greater now. Pause. They need rest. They need food. Then we can talk about land. A practical man sees what is real. Barak is right, Jaewon agreed. First rest. Drink as much as needed. That already helps. Pause. While the people rest, I will think. Look at the land nearby. When Barak is ready, I will say what I found. Barak looked at him. You are 5 years old, Dunbury. The body is 5, said Jaewon. The knowledge is older. Barak was silent for a while, then, unexpectedly, I had a son. Quietly. He died from Kareem. 3 years ago. He was 7. Pause. Jaewon said nothing. Just listened. You are not him, said Barak, but looking at you is a little easier. He stood up. Left. Jaewon sat. This world is harsh. People lose children to thirst, to heat, to hunger. This is not a story. This is the reality of every person around. The work must be done quickly, but correctly. Without haste, but without slowness. Every day while there is no system, someone dies. While the Tiri were resting, Jaewon explored the land around the well. Radius 200 meters. Methodically, the soil near the limestone is richer. Mineral. If you add water, something will grow. What to grow in the desert? First, the date palm. The ideal desert plant. Feet in water, head in fire, the Arabs say. Roots to the water. The crown loves heat. But it grows slowly. A year until the first fruits at minimum. Not a quick solution. Second, barley. One of the oldest cereals. Drought resistant. With minimal watering, it gives a harvest. 3 to 4 months from sowing to harvest. Third, pumpkin and melon. Unexpectedly drought resistant. Long roots search for water. The fruits contain water, a double benefit. 2 to 3 months. Fourth, onion grows in dry conditions. Underground fruit, less evaporation. Fast. Seeds are needed. That is the problem. He returned to Hazal. Hazal, does Darihal have seeds? The old man looked at him. A little barley. We were saving it for food. Pause. Why do you ask? If we plant it, there will be more, Hazal thought. It is a risk. To spend the last seeds on planting. If it does not grow, hunger. But if it grows, stability. How much do you need? A little. 1 small plot. To test. Pause. If it grows, we plant more. If not, we lost little. Hazal looked at him for a long time. Danbury, he said. You think like an old man. My old man from dreams taught me. He was a good old man. A very good one, Jaewon agreed. And that is true. Kim Jaewon, 32 years old engineer. He was a good man. A pity he died on Wednesday. They planted a small plot. Jaewon explained how. Not in the open sun. On the eastern side of the rock, the morning sun is softer, in the afternoon shade from the rock. Not deep, in the dry desert seeds will not sprout deep. Shallow, but with water in the hole before sowing. Mulching, cover the surface with stones and dry grass. It holds moisture in the soil, reduces evaporation 3-fold. Water a little in the evening. Not during the day, it will evaporate before it can soak in. In the evening, the night lies ahead, the moisture goes to the roots. They planted, covered it with stones. Raka looked at the small plot. Small, he said. For now, small, Jaewon agreed. When will it grow? If it grows 3 months, 3 months is long. Long, Jaewon agreed. That is why we plant now, Raka thought. Danvari. Yes, Raka. You always think ahead. I try. That is a good quality, said Raka. Rare. Pause. From Raka, that is more than praise. It is recognition. Raka thinks ahead too, said Jaewon. Otherwise Darihal would not have survived. Raka looked at him. Something soft for a second in the hard face. Go sleep, Danvari, he said. A small one should sleep. A big one too, Jaewon answered. Raka snorted, almost a laugh. Left, 100 days after the well. Jaewon was not counting on purpose, just an engineering habit. Chronology, sequence, progress. Day 1, the well is ready. Day 52, the first heavy rain. Unexpected, important. Day 93, core came. 100 days that changed everything. The rain came at night. Without warning, in the desert, rains do not warn. The sky simply closed at night and water came down. Hard, brief, about 20 minutes. The camp woke from the first drops. The reaction was strange for Jaewon, an adult man from a world where rain is ordinary. People ran out of the tents, stood under the rain. Some cried. Just stood and cried under the rain. For them it is a rarity. Maybe there had been none for years. Jaewon ran out not to cry, to work. Rain is a resource, not to lose a single drop. He grabbed every available container, bags, bowls, the bucket from the well. Set them out quickly under the edges of the tents where it ran down in open places. Nira saw, understood, began helping. Then Raka. In 20 minutes of rain, they collected almost 200 liters. For 9 people, more than 2 weeks of extra reserves. When the rain ended, Hazal came over, looked at the arranged containers with water. You did not stand in the rain, he said. You were collecting water. Everyone else stood. I know. Pause. Danvari, Hazal said quietly. Do you ever miss it? Just to rejoice? Without usefulness? Jaewon stopped. The question was unexpected and precise. Kim Jaewon, who died on Wednesday, also never stood in the rain. Always running somewhere. Always thinking about the next step. Maybe that is why he died sleep-deprived. I miss it sometimes, he said honestly. Next rain, stand under it. Hazal turned toward the tent. First stand, then collect. Jaewon looked after him, a wise old man. He remembered it. Day 71st. The barley grew, not much. A small plot, a small harvest, but real. Golden heads, heavy grains, alive. The whole group harvested together. Mir, the 4-year-old boy, dragged armfuls of barley and fell, and got up and dragged again. Sala busily tied bundles. Nira threshed. Jaewon helped, child's hands clumsy, but he tried, and thought. The harvest is small, but proof, it works. Now we can speak of more. What is needed for a bigger field? First, water. More water for irrigation. One well will not be enough if the sowing expands. Second, soil. Desert soil is poor. Fertilizer is needed. Camel dung is ideal. They had never used it, just threw it away. Third, an irrigation system. Right now they water manually with a bucket every evening. This is labor-intensive and inefficient. Simple irrigation is needed, channels from the well to the field. The water flows by itself. Fourth, expansion of the sowing. Barley is good, but diversity is important. Where to get other seeds is the question. When the harvest was gathered, Hazal weighed grain in his hand. Little, he said. The first time is always little, Jaewon said, but it exists. Next time, more. Why more? We will plant part of the grain again. We will expand the field. Pause. And we will water better. He explained about the channels. Hazal listened, nodded. When do we dig the channels? Now, while the ground is soft after the rain. Hazal stood up, called Raka. Raka listened silently, intently, then took a shovel. Show where, Danvari. The channels were primitive, shallow, but they worked. The principle is simple. From the well along the terrain downward, a slight slope. The water is poured from the well into the first channel, flows to the field, spreads along smaller side channels between the rows of sowing. Pour once, the water spreads by itself, not with a bucket to each row. They dug for a day. They tested it, let the water through. It flowed. Slowly, unevenly, the channels were uneven, the angles wrong. But it flowed. Raka watched the water go to the field by itself. Clever, he said, briefly. From Raka, clever is the highest praise. It can be better, Jaewon said. If we level the channels, it will flow better. But for now, like this. Then we will level them, Raka said. Simply, as if it were self-evident. Raka said, then we will level them. It cannot be. Not we will see. We will level them. He accepted it. Truly accepted it. Barak returned on the 92nd day. Not alone, all 30, and with them 10 more. New faces? They came to the well, saw the field, even if small, even if only barley. But a green patch in the desert. They stood and looked. One of the newcomers, an elderly man, said something to Barak. He answered, nodded toward Jawan. The elderly man came over, looked at Jawan for a long time. Are you Danvari? Danvari, the child who knows water. Yes. And earth, said the elderly man. He nodded toward the field. I am learning, Jawan said. The right answer. Not yes, I know everything. I am learning is more honest and safer. The elderly man smiled a little. My name is Varan, he said. I am the Tiri healer. Pause. You are the first child who does not boast? Boasting is extra noise. Well said. Varan crouched beside him. Can we talk? Of course. Barak watched from afar, did not interfere. Danvari, Varan said quietly. I am old. I have seen much. Pause. Tell me honestly, are you human? Pause. An unexpected question. Jawan looked at the healer. Smart eyes, attentive. This man senses something. Human? Jawan said. Just different. Different, Varan repeated. Yes, I see. Pause. Your body is young, your gaze is not. Jawan was silent. I am not an enemy, Varan said, and I will not tell the others. Pause, I just want to understand. A long silence, whether to trust or not. Varan is a healer, spiritual authority of the tribe. If he is against him, dangerous. If he is with him, very useful. And there was something in the old man. Honest. I came from far away, Jawan said slowly. Very far away. Pause. I remember another world. There is different knowledge there. I brought it here. Varan listened. Why? I did not choose. Honestly, I just ended up here, in this body. Pause. Since I am here, it is better to help. Varan was silent for a long time, looked at the horizon. The desert sometimes sends people, he said at last, from other places, from other times. Pause. I heard such stories from my teacher. I thought they were legends. Maybe legends. Maybe not. Yes, Varan agreed. Maybe not. He stood up. Danvari, I will help you as much as I can. Does Varan know much? Varan knows plants, the old man said. Which heal, which grow in the ground, which can be found where? Pause. It seems we have something to discuss. Jawan looked at the healer. A man who knows the local plants, which grow in this desert, which are edible, which are medicinal, which are drought resistant. This is priceless. What Jawan does not have. Local knowledge. His engineering knowledge plus Varan's knowledge of the local flora together is serious. Varan, said Jawan, I have questions. I do too, said the healer. Sit down. Let us talk. They talked for 3 hours. Varan asked. Jawan answered. Jawan asked. Varan answered. Exchange of knowledge. Honest, equal. Jawan learned, within a day's journey radius there are 5 kinds of plants that are edible. 2 of them Varan knew how to preserve. One plant, the Sarah root, contains much moisture, like a cactus. In times of hunger, the Tiri chewed the root. Not tasty, but it keeps off dehydration. There used to be trees here, long ago, before the Great Kareem. Varan remembered, this is important. Trees grew, which means the soil can hold roots, which means it can be restored. Date palms were in 2 places, both far away. Seeds can be taken. Varan learned why channels are better than a bucket, why mulching holds moisture, what compost is and how camel dung turns into fertilizer. You just need to wait a few weeks until it decomposes. How to determine where to dig a well, 3 signs that are easy to remember. By evening, Varan stood up. Danvari, he said, you know how to build. I know what lives here. Together we can do more. Agreed. But there is a problem. What? Core, said Varan. Simply. That word again. Tell me about Core. Varan sat back down. Core is a big tribe. That is how Varan began. Long ago average, like everyone. But before the Great Kareem, they found 3 large water sources, took them under control. When Kareem came and the small sources began to dry, everyone went to Kor to ask for water. Kor gave it, for a price. First livestock, then labor, then people. Young men who worked for Kor. Some clans accepted, became part of Kor, lost their name, some refused, left, died, or survived. Dari Hal and Tiri are among those who left, but Kor do not forget. From time to time they come, they look. If they see that a clan has something, they take it. Not always by force, sometimes by trade, but trade such that the benefit is always with Kor. Varan fell silent, then added, Kor will learn about the well. They will come, Jaewon thought. A competitor for the resource? A water monopolist deprived of monopoly. In his previous world, he knew such stories. Oil, water, land. Monopolies that crush competitors. Here, the same principles. Different scale. How to defend against Kor is a question that needs solving, but not now. First, strengthen the base. Without strength, it is impossible to negotiate. Without resources, it is impossible to bargain. First, we need to grow. How many people does Kor have? Jaewon asked. Many, maybe 300, maybe more. 300 against 39, impossible by force. Another strategy is needed. Varan, said Jaewon. Does Kor know about us now? Not yet, I think. We are far from their roots. How much time until they find out? Hard to say. Maybe a month. Maybe 3. 3 months, Jaewon repeated. 3 months to grow enough. Little. But there is some. Varen, said Jaewon. While Kor does not know, we work fast. What do we build? A second well, then a big one. Pause. And more people are needed. More people. Other clans. Small clans that are in trouble, invite them here. Varen looked at him. Why? 1 clan is weak. 2 are weaker than 3. Pause. Kor is strong because they are many. If we are many, that is a different conversation. Unite the clans, Varen said slowly. That. No one has tried for a long time. Why? Each clan its own rules, its own elders, its own pride. Pause. Difficult. Difficult, Jaewon agreed. But water is a common language. Everyone understands water. Varan thought for a long time. A very long time. Then, Danvari, how old are you really? Pause. Old, Jaewon said. Varan laughed. Quietly. I believe you. Barak agreed to build a second well. Without long negotiations, he saw the first one, saw the field, understood that Danvari does not deceive. Jaewon found the place in 3 days of scouting. This time easier, he knew what to look for, knew the signs, found a promising point north of the first well. 1.5 kilometers. 2 wells 1.5 kilometers from each other. This is important, not too close. 1 aquifer will not be exhausted if water is taken from 2 points at a distance. Basic hydrology. They built already faster. Vel, the Tiri mason, now knew the principle. Jaewon barely interfered. Only the beginning. Angle of excavation, depth. 4 days ready. More water than in the first. This horizon is richer. After the second well, Barak gathered everyone. Hazel beside him. Varan. Danvari says other clans are needed, said Barak. I thought about it. Pause. There are 3 clans that I know. Small ones. They are in trouble. Pause. But they will not come just like that. Something needs to be offered. Water, said Jaewon. Water is little, said Barak. Water they can maybe find themselves. Something bigger needs to be offered. Jaewon thought. What can a settlement of 2 wells in a small field offer to 3 unfamiliar clans? Stability. That is what is rare in this world. Not one-time water, permanent. Not one harvest, a system. A place where one can stop and not die from Kareem. Barak, said Jaewon, offer them not water. Offer them a place. A place? A place where there is water, always. And land that feeds. Pause. Say, come, together we will build. Together we will do more. Alone it is hard. Together it is possible. Barak looked at him. And if they come and want to take everything? Say there are more of us. Now it is ours? The right question. A real risk. Therefore, said Jaewon, we invite them one by one. First one clan. We see how we live together, then the next. Pause. And rules. Right away. Water is shared, field is shared, work is shared, decisions all together. A council, he described the council. Primitive democracy, but workable. Hazal had been silent all this time. Now he said, Danvari describes something that has not existed for a long time. Quietly, earlier clans lived together. Before Kareem. Pause. Then they split. Water became little, whoever is stronger drinks. Now there will be more water, Jaewon said. We need to be together again. Hazal looked at him for a long time. Something was being decided in the old man. Good, Hazal said at last. I will ride to the Hara clan. They are old acquaintances. Good people. Pause. Barak rides to his own. Barak nodded. Varan with me, Hazal added. They know Varan. They trust him. Varan gave a short nod. Agreed. Danvari, Hazal said, you stay. I know. Guard the wells. I will. Hazal stood, looked at the small camp, at the 2 wells at the barley field. Danvari, he said quietly. You changed our life. We changed it, Jaewon said. Together. Hazal looked at him. Something warm in the old eyes. Together he agreed. Hazal and Barak left. In the camp remained Nira, Raka, Salah, Mir, the old woman Hema, Hazal's mother Silent, looked 90 years old, and 2 Tiri trackers, and Jaewon. 8 people, 2 wells, 1 small field. Raka was appointed the elder, silently accepted. Jaewon did not waste time. While there are days, work, first, compost. He showed Nira, gather camel dung into 1 pit. Add ash from the fire. Cover with cloth, it heats up, decomposes. In 3 to 4 weeks, fertilizer. Nira smelled the dung, grimaced, but began gathering it. A practical woman. Second, expansion of the field. Raka dug himself, silently, every morning. He widened the channels, leveled them, did not ask for explanations, understood the principle himself. A smart man, learns quickly. Third, Jaewon thought about a kanat. A kanat, an underground aqueduct, the most complex construction he knew for these conditions. The principle in mountains or on high ground, where the aquifer is close to the surface, a shaft is dug. From the shaft, an underground tunnel to the place of settlement. The water flows by gravity along the slope. No pump is needed, no rope is needed. Open the outlet, it flows by itself. The Persians built such things for thousands of years, they still work. Some of them are 2,000 years old. Is it possible here? The relief needs to be studied. He went scouting alone. Raka wanted to accompany him. I am small, Jaewon said. I will return before dark. Watch the camp. Raka did not want to let him go, but Jaewon was already leaving. A 5-year-old child walks alone into the desert. Raka stood and watched him go with the expression of a man who is very uneasy but can do nothing. The scouting took half a day. Jaewon went north. The rocks there are higher. The relief descends toward the camp. This is important for a kanat. Water flows downward along the slope. It is necessary to find a point above the camp by the relief, 10 to 15 meters higher. Dig the main shaft there. From there, a tunnel down to the camp. The length of the tunnel depends on the distance. It may be 200 meters, it may be half a kilometer. Long to dig, much work, but once and forever. He found a point. Rock. Beneath it, the soil is dark. The relief is a good 12 meters above the camp. He probed 1.5 meters deep moisture. The aquifer is close here. Good. He measured the distance in steps to the camp. About 300 meters. That means a tunnel 300 meters. In a child's body, digging is impossible. Adult hands are needed. Many adult hands. One more argument for the clans to unite. He recorded everything in his mind, in detail. Went back. Returned before dark as promised. Raka stood at the entrance to the camp. You came back. Said I would come back. What did you find? A place for big water. Raka looked at him. Big? Bigger than 2 wells together. Pause. Will you show me? Tomorrow. Now it is dark. Raka nodded. They went to the fire. Nira served food. Barley porridge, hard, with no particular taste. But theirs. Your own taste better than someone else's. Always. Sala leaned against him beside him, fell asleep on his shoulder. Mir had already been asleep for a long time. Jaewon sat by the fire, thought about the Connaught, about the 300 meters of tunnel, about how many people were needed and how much time. Thought about Kor, who still do not know. Thought that he still has the body of a 5-year-old and he still has so much growing to do. And it is a strange feeling to look at the world with adult eyes from a child's body. He thought about engineer Kim Jae-won, who died on Wednesday from lack of sleep. And that this world is real. These people are real. This is not a dream and not a game, which means work, while there is time. Hazal returned 10 days later. With him, the Hera clan, 12 people. Nira ran to meet them, hugged Hazal tightly. The old man held her by the shoulders, quietly. Nira is his daughter. Of course, how had Jaekwon not understood earlier? Similar in the way they carry themselves. The Hera looked at the camp, at the wells, at the field. Their elder was a woman. That was unexpected. About 60 years old, thin, sinewy, sharp gaze, clothes faded gray-white. Her name was Rami. Rami came to the first well, lowered her hand, scooped water, drank, stood in silence, then turned to her people, said something short. The Hara began setting up tents. They had already decided. Rami decided at the well. Then Rami came to Jaewon, looked at him the same way Barak had, studying. The way Varan had, attentively. Are you Danvari? Danvari! Hazal says much about you. Hazal is kind. Hazal is not kind, said Rami. Hazal is smart. He praises only what is worth praise. Pause. Rami, said Jaewon. You want to ask something? The woman narrowed her eyes. A smart child? I am trying. Good. I will ask. Pause. You are building a settlement here. Wells, field, inviting clans. Pause. Why do you need this? A child? A direct question. A direct answer. I know how to make life better, Jaewon said. Knowledge is useless if one is alone. Pause. People are needed who do. I show they do. Together we live better. Pause. It is better for me too. I am part of this. Rami listened. An honest answer, she said at last. You do not hide that there is benefit for you too. Why hide it? Many hide it, to seem selfless. There are no selfless ones. It is just that everyone has a different payment. Rami looked at him. For a long time. Then the corners of her lips, almost a smile. Hara will work, she said, as equals. Pause, but all decisions together. My people do not obey another elder. A council, Jaewon said. Hazal, Barak, Rami decide together. Equally. Good, said Rami. She stood, went to her people, then turned back. Danvari. Yes, Rami. You thought about this council in advance. A little. A lot, said Rami. I can see. Pause. Be careful with that. People do not like it when they feel they are being led. Jaewon stopped. A correct remark. Sharp. In his previous life, they also said Jaewon knows how to manage a process so that people think they decided themselves. That is not always good. I understand, he said. Thank you. Rami nodded. Left. A smart woman. Very smart. The next day, the first council. Hazal, Barak, Rami. Varan nearby without voting rights, as an advisor. Jaewon also nearby, also without a vote officially. A 5-year-old child in the Council of Elders. A strange picture, but no one objected. After the wells, no one objected. They talked for a long time. The first council was establishing rules. The water is shared. No clan owns a well alone. The field is shared. The harvest is divided by the number of mouths. Work according to strength. Whoever can dig, digs. Whoever cannot cooks, watches the children, heals. Decisions by majority of the 3. If 2 against 1, the majority decides. If all 3, unanimously. Jaewon listened. A primitive but workable charter. One problem, there is no mechanism for the case when all 3 disagree. A deadlock, a 4th vote, or a tie-breaking mechanism is needed. He raised his hand. Everyone looked. Danvari, said Hazal. One question. Pause. If Hazal says one thing, Barak another, Rami a third, what do we do? Silence. The three elders looked at each other. They had not thought of that. Then we wait, said Barak. We think more. And if it is urgent? If there is an attack, if there is illness, there is no time to think? Silence. What do you suggest? Rami asked. Directly. She was always direct. A fourth vote, the one all three respect. Decides only in case of deadlock. Who is that? All three were looking at him. Jaewon realized that right now they were all thinking the same thing. Not me, he said quickly. I am a child. Pause. Varan. Silence. Varan raised his head, surprised. The three elders exchanged glances. Varan is the Tiri healer. Neutral, wise. Does not belong completely to any one clan, belongs to everyone through his spiritual role. Hazal nodded first. Rami after a pause as well. Barak looked at Varan. Does Varan agree? He asked. Varan looked at Jaewon. In his gaze, I understood that you invented this in advance. I agree, said Varan. If needed. Barak nodded. The council was formed. Day 93. Raka ran back from scouting quickly without extra words. Corps. How many? 20, on camels. In 2 hours they will be here. Jaewon stood up, thought quickly. 20 corps. We have 51 people from 3 clans. Of those, maybe 25 men able to fight. Numerically, we are more. But corps are experienced raiders. We are scattered clans who sat in council for the first time 3 days ago. We must not fight. Not because we will lose people we cannot afford to lose. Every person here has value. We need to negotiate. But from a position. The weak do not negotiate. The weak are absorbed. We need to look stronger than we are. He quickly gathered the council. 3 minutes. Corps are coming to see what we have. They will see the wells, the field, 3 clans together. This will surprise them. Pause. When you are surprised, you do not attack at once. You think. Pause. We need time. What do you suggest? Rami asked. Calmly, this woman never panicked. We meet them openly. Do not hide. Hazal says we are not enemies. We offer water in exchange. Not as tributaries, as equals. Corps will not accept equals, said Barak. They take, they do not bargain. Earlier they took from the weak, said Jaewon. Now let them see. Not weak. Pause. Rami looked at him. Danvari, she said, you understand that if Corps do not agree it will be bad. I understand. And you still suggest a conversation. Because war is worse, whether we win or lose, we lose people, we lose time. Pause. Better a year of negotiations than 1 battle. Silence. Hazal said, I speak with Corps. I am the elder. Pause. Danvari beside me. You keep silent. Only if I ask, you speak. Good. Everyone else to their business. Normal. Do not hide. Do not arm yourselves. We work as usual. Smart. Hazal understood everything correctly. Show strength through normality, not through weapons. Through the fact that there is life here. Wells, field, people who work. That is harder to attack than a frightened camp. Corps came after an hour and a half. 22 people, on camels, well armed. Different clothes. Richer, better. They have resources, it shows. Their leader was young, about 35. Tall, confident. He rode into the camp without dismounting. That is how one enters a place where one thinks oneself the master. He looked. Jaewon saw how his face changed. He expected a small, poor camp. He saw 2 wells, a field, 3 clans together. He hid the surprise quickly, but there was a second. Hazal stepped forward to meet him, calmly, without a weapon. Peace to you and your people, he said, in the common language of the desert. There is enough water. Rest. Offering water first was the right move. Hospitality obliges. In the culture of the desert, if you accepted water as hospitality, you cannot attack immediately. The Corps leader watched. He got off the camel. My name is Kaz, he said. Son of Corps, son of the chieftain, or a young chieftain. Hazal, Darihal. Hazal. Kaz looked at the 3 groups of people. This is not only Darihal here. No, Tiri. Hara. Pause. We live together. Kaz pause. Analyzing. Why together? Better together, said Hazal simply. Kaz walked to the well. Looked. A good well. Built well. Did you build it yourselves? Ourselves. Kaz looked at him. He does not fully believe it, but he does not understand who helped if not themselves. His gaze shifted to Jaewon, a child, standing beside Hazal, looking calmly. Children do not look calmly at armed strangers. Usually they hide. Who is this? Kaz asked. Danvari, said Hazal, a child of the clan. Why is he standing here? He wants to. Kaz looked at Jaewon. Jaewon looked back, calmly, evenly, not boldly, just looked. Strange child, said Kaz. Special, Hazal agreed. Pause. Kaz returned to the conversation with Hazal. A long conversation. Jaewon listened, understood almost everything now. Kaz wanted to know how much water, where such a field came from, how many people, whose lands. Hazal answered calmly, without excess. Did not boast, did not diminish. A professional negotiator, the old man. In the end, Kaz said, Kor is a strong tribe, knows this desert. Can help small clans. Help, the key word. Help from Kor comes with a price. Hazal looked at Rami, at Barak, then at Jaewon, asking with his gaze. Speak? Jaewon gave a slight nod. Yes. Hazal turned to Kaz. The three clans live well. There is water. Food is growing. Pause. Help is possible, but trade. Equal. Pause. We have something to offer Kor. Kaz narrowed his eyes. This is not what he expected. He expected a request. He got an offer. What do you offer? Water, said Hazal. Clean. More than you have. Pause. And the knowledge of how to find more. Silence. Kaz was silent, thinking. Jaewon watched. Kaz is a smart man. Not evil, just grew up in a system where the strong takes from the weak. This is his norm. But a smart man changes the norm when he sees profit. Hazal's offer is profitable. If there really is more water here and they know how to find more, it is more valuable to take the knowledge voluntarily than by force. Because by force, knowledge is not given. They will kill the bearer, burn the field, fill the wells with sand. An empty victory. Kaz understands this. We will stay the night, said Kaz at last. Rest. Tomorrow we talk. Welcome, said Hazal. At night by the fire, Jaewon and Varan. Tomorrow he will want more, said Varan quietly. I know. What will you say? I will show the second place. The new well. Pause. Not here in his territory. Let them build it themselves. But we will teach. Why would he need our help if we show the place? Because the place is half the matter. Jaewon looked into the fire. To build correctly is knowledge. One place, one well. We can show 10 places, 20. Pause. Knowledge is more valuable than water, Varan thought. You want Kor to depend on knowledge, he said slowly. Not depend. Learn. Pause. If Kor know how to build wells, they do not need to take water from the weak. They need to build their own. Pause. This changes them. A long silence. Danvari, said Varan. You think about people who came to rob you and want to change them. I want there to be no sense in robbing, Jaewon corrected. That is different. Varan looked at him. How old are you really, he said. Not a question, just words into the darkness. Old enough? Jaewon answered. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the darkness, Kor had made their camp. Tomorrow, the conversation that will determine the coming years. Jaewon sat, thought, prepared. Kaz woke before dawn. Jaewon knew, he saw. He did not sleep himself. Lay by the tent, looked at the stars. In this world, the stars are different. The constellations unfamiliar, the sky darker, but there are more stars. As if here there is less light below and more above. Kaz came out of his camp alone, walked to the well, stood, looked at the water. Jaewon watched silently. What does Kaz see? Not just a well, he understands what it means. Permanent water, independence from the season, from the root, from someone else's mercy. That is power of another kind. Not the power of weapons, the power of a place. Core hold power through control of 3 sources, but the sources are natural, unstable. One dried up 5 years ago, Varan had said. The second weakens every year. Kaz knows this. Kaz is a smart man who sees that his power has an expiration date, and here before him is something else. Man-made, reliable. Jaewon stood up, walked to the well, stood beside Kaz. Silence. Kaz looked at him. A child awake in the dark and coming up to him. Danvery, he said quietly. You are not sleeping. I am thinking. What does a child think about at night? About water, said Jaewon. Always about water. Kaz watched. It was you who found water here? We found it. Hazel says you. Pause. A child who found water in a dead desert. The desert is not dead. Jaewon looked at the horizon. Dawn was beginning. The water is just hidden. One must know how to look. Silence. You know how, said Kaz. Not a question, I do. Kaz was silent for a long time. Danvery, tell me straight. What do you want from Core? A direct question. That means he is ready for a direct answer. This is good. Jaewon thought for a second. Peace, he said. Just peace. Pause. 3 clans live here. Build. Grow. Bother no one. Pause. If Core leave us alone, we will show Core how to find water in their own lands. Real great water. Pause. If Core come with force, we will lose time and people. Core will also lose, and the water will remain in the ground. For no one. Kaz listened. Dawn was flaring, the sky from black to dark blue to violet. You speak like an adult, said Kaz. I was taught well. Who taught you? An old man from dreams. Kaz looked at him strangely. Hazel says that too. Hazel heard it from me. So it is true? It is true. A long silence. Kaz put his hand into the well, scooped water, drank straight from his palm. Good water, he said. There is good water everywhere here if you know where to look. Kaz placed his palm on the edge of the well. Will you show a place in our lands? I will show 3 places. Pause. And I will explain how to build. So that later you know yourselves. Why 3? 1 is enough. 1 is little. Jaewon looked at Kaz. 1 well, 1 point of vulnerability. If it fills with sand, if it is poisoned, that is all. Pause. 3 wells, 3 lives. Lose 1, there are 2, Kaz thought. You think about this? Always. Dawn flared in full force, orange, red, the horizon burning. Kaz turned to Jaewon. Good, Danvery. Pause. We will speak with the elders. In the morning, an expanded council. Hazal, Barak, Rami on one side, Kaz and 2 of his elders on the other, Varan in the middle, Jaewon a little to the side. Officially not a participant. In fact, everyone kept glancing. Hazel began the negotiations. Correctly, he is the host of the place. They talked for a long time. 2 hours. Circling, as negotiations always are. The same thing from different sides. Kaz wanted access to water here, regularly. Hazel offered exchange, water for safety. Kaz, Core does not guard. Core is strength. Others fear Core. That is enough. Rami entered sharply. We do not pay for what we did not ask for. The tension rose. Jaewon listened. A classic negotiating deadlock. Both sides are right in their own logic. A third point is needed, something beneficial to both, but not a concession. He raised his hand. Everyone looked. Silent permission, Hazal nodded. Jaewon stood up. Kaz, he said, allow a question. Speak. How much water does Core need each year? Kaz was surprised by the question, but answered. A lot. 300 people, camels, livestock. Do your 3 sources give enough? Pause. Kaz did not want to answer, but silence was the answer. No, Jaewon said for him. They do not. That is why you come to the small clans. Take their water. Pause. But the small clans are small. They have little. It is like drinking from small cups when you want to drink from a bucket. Kaz looked at him, silently. I know where in Core lands there is great water. Pause. Not a small source. A real aquifer. If opened, it will be enough for the whole tribe. For years. Silence. Complete. Even the wind seemed to fall silent. "How do you know?" said one of Kaz's elders, skeptically. "I read the land," said Jaewon. "I look at the relief, the soil, the plants." Pause. "I can be wrong. Sometimes I am wrong, honestly. But 3 times I found water where they were not looking for it." Pause. 3 out of 3 is not luck. Kaz exchanged glances with his men. Something was being decided. "What do you want in return?" Kaz asked directly. "Peace for the 3 clans." Pause. "Not protection. Simply core do not touch us. Do not take water, livestock, people." Pause. "We live separately. We trade if we want. We do not trade if we do not want." Silence. Kaz looked at Hazal. "Does Hazal agree with this?" "Hazal offered this from the beginning," said the old man evenly. Kaz looked at Rami. "Hara?" "Hara lives its own life. Kor lives its own." Rami was brief, hard. "That is all we need," Kaz thought. "For a long time." His elders said something to him quietly. He listened, nodded or shook his head. Jaewon waited. Did not rush him. This is an important moment. Haste kills negotiations. At last Kaz raised his head. "Agreement," he said. "Danbury shows 3 places in our lands. We build." Pause. "Kor do not touch the 3 clans." Pause. 1 year. Then we look again. Hazal looked at Rami, at Barak. Both nodded, almost at the same time. "Agreement," said Hazal. A handshake. The first agreement in the New World. Jaewon sat and felt not triumph, just satisfaction, working satisfaction. The first step of a long staircase. 1 year of peace. In 1 year they need to grow so that the next year does not depend on Kaz's goodwill. 3 days later, Jaewon rode with Kaz. Hazal did not want to let him go. A long conversation. "He is a child," Hazal told Kaz. 5 years old, he is Danvari. Kaz looked calmly. "You yourself said he finds water. Not you, not Raka. Him." Hazal to Jaewon. "Do you want to go?" "I need to go," said Jaewon. "No one else knows how to search. Raka can be taught. Raka is learning. But for now he cannot do it himself. It takes time." Pause. "Hazal, I will return." The old man looked at him. Something in his eyes, fear. Real. Not fear of politics. Fear for the child. For Hazal, Danvari is not just a valuable resource. He is his child now. Over these months, he became so. 10 days, said Hazal at last. No more, I will try. Hazal squeezed his shoulder, firmly. Old man's fingers dry but strong. Come back, he said, simply. Jaewon nodded. The lands of Kor are different. Farther west, more stony. More rocks, dark basalt, sharp, hot. Geologically more interesting. Basalt is cracked, water accumulates in the cracks. But it is harder to reach. They rode for 2 days. Jaewon sat on the camel behind Kaz, looked, memorized the relief. The type of soil? The plants. Kaz asked sometimes. Not much, but he asked. Danvari, how do you see water? I read the land. How do you read it? Explain. Jaewon thought how to explain without technical terms. Water is heavy. It goes down. Pause. Rain falls, goes deeper, accumulates in layers where the earth is dense, does not let it go farther. Pause. These layers are not everywhere equally deep. Where they are close to the surface, there are signs. Pause. Certain plants that need water grow only if the water is close, the soil is darker, the relief is specific. Kaz listened. Can this be taught? It can. Not quickly, but it can. Will you teach my people? Pause. An interesting question. If Kor know how to look for water themselves, they do not need Danvari. Then why peace? Why an agreement? On the other hand, if he does not teach, the knowledge will remain only with Jaewon. That is a dangerous monopoly. Dangerous for him himself. A smart monopolist shares knowledge in measured doses, enough to create dependence, not enough to create complete independence. But that is not his path. His path is to spread knowledge as much as possible, because the goal is not power. The goal is people survive. I will teach, said Jaewon. Everyone who wants to learn. Kaz was silent for a while. Why? Because if your people know how, they will not die from Kareem. Pause. It matters to me that people do not die. A long silence. A strange goal for a child, said Kaz. Maybe, Jaewon agreed. They said nothing more, rode on. On the second day, he found the first place. The wadi was dry, but the shape was right. The plant unfamiliar, Varan would know its name. Jaewon determined only by the principle. A live, deep root in a dry place. Here, Kaz watched. Two of his trackers watched. There was less skepticism than Raka had had at the beginning. Reputation was working. They dug. 1 meter 20, water, not deep. A good sign, the horizon is high. The tracker scooped water in his handful. Tasted it. Clean, he said in surprise. Better than the water you have? Jaewon asked. Yes, because Core's old sources are surface ones. They stand a long time, evaporate, salts concentrate. This one is fresh from the depth. The second place tomorrow, said Jaewon. The third the day after tomorrow. Kaz watched him. Something in that gaze had changed over 2 days. Hard to name with a word. Not admiration, not fear. Something like respect. Careful, reluctant. But there. They found 3 places in 4 days, the second harder. Deeper, but lots of water. The third closest to the main core camp. The most important strategically. Now he taught. He gathered the core trackers, 5 of them. Young, attentive. Explained slowly, really explained. Not in general words, in detail. First sign, plants. He showed concretely. This plant, named as best he could, without names, by description, grows where water is no deeper than 2 meters. This one 3 meters. This one 5. Remember the shape of the leaf, the color, how it holds the stem. The second sign, the color of the soil. A dark strip in light sand, the boundary where moisture rises. It is not always visible, but after rain, it is especially noticeable. The third sign, relief. Wadis, depressions, places where water runs after a rare rain. There it also goes deeper. The fourth, animals. Birds fly to water in the morning. Hoof tracks converge to a point. Ants build nests where there is moisture. The trackers listened. Asked questions, good questions. Smart people. It is hard to teach without an exact language, but the basics can be passed on. On the third day, he asked them to find it themselves. Go, look, find a promising place. Come back and tell me. They left, returned a few hours later. 2 found. Good places. Correct logic. 3 did not. Wrong signs, mistakes. Normal. Learning is mistakes. He went over it with each of them. Why it was right, why not. Not criticism, explanation. Kaz watched all this from the side. In the evening he came over. Danbury, yes, Kaz. You are teaching my people to see water. Pause. Why? After this they will not need you. I know. Then why? Jaewon looked into the fire. Because I need that in 10 years these 5 will teach others. Pause. In 20 years everyone in the desert will know how. Pause. Then there will be no Kareem that kills people. There will only be heat. Heat is bearable. Silence. You think 20 years ahead. I try. You are 5 years old. The body is 5. Kaz looked at him. For a long time. Then, Danbury, he said quietly, I have a son. 3 years. Pause. I want him to learn from you. Jaewon stopped. Unexpected. When he grows up? Whenever you want. Pause. I will bring him to you. Not for long at first. Let him watch. Learn. This is a great gesture. Kaz is a chieftain who asked for his son to be taught. This is not a request from an equal. It is trust. Special trust. Bring him, said Jaewon. I will teach him everything I know. Kaz nodded, stood up, went to his tent. Jaewon remained by the fire. Thinking. Kaz's son learns from Danbury, then becomes an adult who knows how to build wells. Then teaches others of core. A generation that does not know what it is to die of thirst. This is a real victory, not an agreement for a year, not 3 wells, knowledge that lives in people. This is forever. He returned on the 8th day. Hazel met him at the entrance to the camp. Stood. Waited. Saw him, walked toward him quickly for an old man. Said nothing. He simply placed his hand on Jaewon's head. A gesture that says more than words. I am all right, said Jaewon. I see, said Hazal. Go eat. Nira fed him a lot, the way one is fed when people were worried. Then the council. He told them everything. The council listened. Rami utочняла details. Barak nodded. Hazal was silent, thinking. After that, Jaewon said, "Now the kanat." "What?" asked Barak. "Big water." Pause. "I found the place a month ago. I postponed it. People were needed. Now there are people." He explained for a long time. Drew in the ground in detail. Kanat. The main shaft on high ground where the aquifer is close. From the shaft, an underground tunnel to the settlement. A slope of 3 to 5 centimeters per meter is enough for the water to flow by itself. Along the tunnel, inspection shafts every 20 meters. Through them, they dig. Through them, later they maintain it. The tunnel is 3 meters underground, said Jaewon. Coolness, no evaporation, the water flows clean. The water, pause, at the outlet as much as you want, not a bucket at a time, a constant flow, silence. This takes a long time to build, said Raka. Yes, 3 months, maybe 4. Hard, yes. Dangerous? Asked Rami. There is risk. The tunnel can collapse if built incorrectly. Honestly, it must be done carefully, not rushed. How many people? Many. 20 at minimum. Better 30. Barak looked at Hazal. We have 51 people now. If we take 30 for construction, who will do the rest? We work in shifts, said Jaewon. Half build, half do field, water, food. We switch every week. The council thought. For a long time. Rami first. If the kanat gives as much water as you say, it is worth the risk and labor. It is worth it, said Jaewon. I believe Danvari, said Hazal. Barak nodded. We build. Building a kanat is different work. Not a well is simple. A pit downward. Understandable mechanics. A kanat is more complicated. A horizontal tunnel. The slope must be kept. It must not be allowed to collapse. The first week, only the main shaft. The place Jaewon found was 15 minutes walk to the north. A rock, under it the aquifer at a depth of 2 meters. They dug the main shaft down to water. Reinforced the walls with stone, Vel again the chief mason. The water came. Now the tunnel. Here is the problem. How to keep direction in an underground tunnel. No instruments, no level, no theodolite. He had thought about it in advance. The solution is primitive but works. 2 people on the surface with a rope keep a straight line from the shaft to the camp. A third underground receives signals through the inspection shafts. Simple signs. More to the right, more to the left, straight. The slope is controlled with water. They pour a little water into the tunnel and watch where it flows. If to the shaft, the slope is correct. If to the camp, we dig a little downward. Crude, but it works. Jaewon explained, showed, checked every day. The work was hard. The tunnel narrow, an adult man works lying down, hot. Dark, torches but bad air. Jaewon's child body could not work there himself. It tormented him. To watch others do the hard work he himself had invented is an unpleasant feeling. But he compensated. Planned every step, prepared the tools, watched that no one overheated, monitored food, the workers' water portion was larger. This is important. Raka in charge of construction, listened to Jaewon, made decisions quickly. A good tandem. Jaewon plans, Raka does. After a month, 30 meters of tunnel. Slowly, less than desired. Why slowly? The soil is uneven. They encountered hard rocky layers hammered for a long time. Once a small collapse. No one was hurt, they got out in time. But they lost 3 days to clearing and reinforcement. People were getting tired. Shifts were not always kept. The enthusiasm of the first weeks was fading. Jaewon noticed the fatigue before it became a problem. He told the council a celebration is needed. Rami raised an eyebrow. A celebration? The people are tired. A celebration is not rest from work. A celebration is a reminder why we are working. Pause. We mark 30 meters. Good food. Music if there is any. 1 day of rest. Pause. Then we work better than before. Rami thought. Where does good food come from? The second harvest is soon, said Jaewon. We take a little. Rami looked at Hazal. The old man smiled. Danvari knows not only how to build wells, he said. He knows how to see people. Varan heard from the side. Caught Jaewon's gaze. Nodded. I told you so. They held the celebration. Small roasted meat, barley flatbreads, a little sweet that Nira found in her supplies. Sala sang. It turned out she could. A good voice, unfamiliar songs, but beautiful. Mir danced. 4 years old, serious, diligent, funny. People laughed. Jaewon sat and watched. 51 people who a month ago barely knew each other sat together by one fire, sang the same songs, laughed at the same things. This too is building, no less important than the tunnel. Shared water unites bodies. A shared celebration unites people. 100 meters, then 150, then 200. The work went more smoothly. People learned. Raka felt the tunnel as his own. At the 250th meter, they met water. Not from below, from the side. A crack in the rock layer, water was seeping directly into the tunnel. The horizon had been crossed. This means they are going correctly. This means there will be water. Raka climbed out of the tunnel, all covered in earth, wet. Looked at Jaewon. Water, he said. I know. I heard from below. What do we do? Widen the tunnel in that place. Give the water a place to gather. Then continue forward. 50 meters to the camp still. 50, Jaewon agreed. The last, the most important. Raka nodded, went back into the tunnel. The day the tunnel reached the camp, Jaewon remembered forever. Raka broke through the last wall. Light from the surface entered the tunnel, and behind it water. Slowly, steadily, quietly it flowed along the sloping floor of the tunnel. To the exit, to the camp. Jaewon stood at the outlet hole. The water came to his feet. Cold. Real. From the depth of the earth to here, by itself. Without rope, without bucket, without effort. It simply flowed. Constantly. Nira stood nearby, watched, then lowered herself to her knees, held out her palms. The water filled her palms. Nira did not drink. She simply held it, looked at the water in her palms. Then she cried, quietly, without words, just tears. Jaewon stood beside her, silent. In that moment, words were not needed. An hour later, the whole camp stood by the outlet of the canal. 51 people, and Hazal, who came slowly, leaning on a stick, stood by the water, looked for a long time, then turned to Jaewon. Danvari, yes, Hazal. This I have not seen in my whole life. Now you see. Hazal took his hand, a child's small hand in his old dry hands. Thank you, he said. Only that. Jaewon stood there. Felt something, not triumph, no. Something quiet. Deep, like the water that flowed from the earth. Slowly, constantly, reliably. The 3rd month after the Kanat, constant water changed everything. The field grew 5-fold. Raka and Vel expanded the channels every week. Rami organized irrigation by shifts. Varan showed which local plants could be included in the sowing. Varan brought seeds from far places. Where he found them, he did not say. Something like sorghum, a drought-resistant grain. The pumpkin was already there. They planted onions and palms. Barak brought date pits, rode 2 weeks for them. Returned with 20 pits and the look of a man who had performed a feat. They planted them right by the Kanat outlet where the moisture is constant. After a year, the first shoots. After 3 years, leaves. After 7, fruit. A long time, but they planted them. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. An old saying from the previous life, relevant everywhere. They gathered the harvest for 3 days, the whole field together. The children gathered what was lower, the adults what was higher. Old woman Hema, 90 years old, sat in the shade and tied sheaves. Slowly, but tied them. 51 people in one field. The harvest was larger than expected. The barley gave well, the water did its part. A lot of pumpkin. A little onion, but there is some. Rami counted precisely, methodically. Wrote with signs on a piece of leather. Danvari, she called. Yes, Rami. Look, she showed the records. If it is the same next time, it will be enough for the whole winter. Winter in this world is colder. Jaewon had not lived through it here yet. Interesting. It needs to be stored properly, he said. Grain in a dry place? Cool. Otherwise it rots or insects get into it. How? An underground pit, said Jaewon. 1 meter deep. Line it inside with dry grass. Grain in tightly closed bags. Cover the top with earth. Pause. There the temperature is even. The grain stores for a long time. Rami wrote it down. She wrote down everything. Every explanation of Jaewon's she fixed with her signs on leather. Once Jaewon asked why, "You will leave one day," she said simply. "Or something will happen. Knowledge must not leave with you." That stopped him. Rami was thinking about what he himself had not thought of. She was recording his knowledge, creating, without the word, a book, without the concept of a library, but the essence the same. Preservation of knowledge. "Rami," said Jaewon, "can you read your records?" "Yes. And I teach Sala, a 7-year-old girl. Sala who sang at the celebration." "Rami," said Jaewon slowly, "this is important. What you are doing. More important than you think." Rami looked at him, straight as always. "I know," she said. "That is why I do it." Pause. There she is. Smart, direct, does not need approval. Rami is the future of this settlement just as much as the Qanat. Maybe more. A year. Jaewon counted from the first day in the desert. What there was a year ago, alone in the desert. The body of a 5-year-old child. 0 water, 0 food, 0 language. What there is now, 3 clans, 51 people. Soon more, Nira is pregnant. 2 more in Hara are expecting. 2 working wells. 1 at the stage of deepening, the Qanat works. Every day water without effort, a large field. The 3rd harvest has been sown, 3 compost pits, good fertilizer. The soil improves with each season, 8 palm sprouts out of 20 pits, in 6 years fruit. The agreement with Kor has been extended. Kaz came 3 months ago. Brought his son, a boy of 3.5. Looked at the Qanat with wide eyes. Kaz's son and Mir played together all day. Children do not know that they are supposed to be enemies. That is good. 3 wells in the lands of Kor have been built. Kaz's trackers learned to seek water. 2 can already find it on their own. Evening. Jaewon sat at the edge of the field. Looked at the camp. No longer a camp. A settlement. Permanent. Tents, some of them replaced with permanent structures. Stone, clay, straw roofs. Nira said, "I want walls that do not fly away in the wind." They made walls. The Qanat murmured. Invisible underground. Its outlet is at the large stone in the center of the settlement. Someone is always coming there. For water, just to stand, just to listen. The sound of water in the desert is special. You hear it differently. Not like in a city where water is just a tap. Here, every sound of water is life. Hazel came over, sat beside him. Silently, they looked at the settlement. "Danvari," said the old man. "Yes, are you satisfied?" Jaewon thought. "Not yet," he said honestly. Hazal looked. "Why?" "Because there is still much that needs to be done." Pause. "Winter storage must be improved. The 3rd clan has not yet been invited." Barak spoke of the Dare clan. "A warning system is needed if Kor come not in peace. More people need to be taught to read the land." Pause. "A lot." Hazal listened. "A lot," he agreed. "But look." He pointed with his hand at the settlement, at the lights of the fires, at the people. A year ago there was only sand here. Jaewon looked. Lights, people, water flowing from the earth, grain in pits for winter, children playing not knowing that they are supposed to be afraid. "Yes," said Jaewon quietly, "there was only sand. Now there is." Pause. "You did this?" "We did," said Jaewon. "Together?" Hazal looked at him, something warm in the old eyes. Together, he agreed. Singing came from the settlement. Sala. In the evening, she often sang. It had become a tradition. Unfamiliar songs. But Jaewon already knew the words. He had learned them. Sometimes sang quietly to himself. Kim Jaewon, who died on Wednesday, sang badly. Never sang. Danvari sang. Something changes when you truly live. Hazal, said Jaewon. Yes, Danvari, thank you. For what? For finding me. Pause. For the water, then. For the name. Pause. For believing the child who says strange things. Hazal was silent for a long time. Danvari, he said at last. You came to the desert alone. Small? Without water. Pause. You did not cry from fear. You cried so that we would come closer. Pause. I saw then you cry, but the eyes think. Jaewon fell silent. Hazal knew. From the very beginning he knew. Yes, said Jaewon quietly. I do not know where you are from, Danvari, said Hazal. I do not know whether your old man from dreams is true or not. Pause. I only know that you came here and stayed. Pause. You could have left. With Kor, you could have. With Kaz. Pause. You stayed. This is my home, said Jaewon. He said it and understood it was true. This world is different. This desert is Chujaya. These people are different. But home. Because home is not the place where you were born. Home is the place where you stayed. Hazal placed his hand on his shoulder. Said nothing. No need. Sala was singing, water was flowing, fires were burning. The first year ended. Dawn. Jaewon stood at the outlet of the Qanat, listened to the water, thought about the plan for the second year. Invite the Dare clan. Learn about them first, Barak knows. Warning system, 3 lookout posts on the approaches, simple signals. Fire at night, smoke in the day. School, a funny word for this world, but the essence is that. Gather the children, teach them. Read Rami's signs, seek water, build, dig around the date palms, add compost. Accelerate growth as much as possible. The second Qanat, there is already a place. People and time are needed. And salt. Salt is needed. There are salty sources far away, Varan knew. Salt for preserving food. A lot of things. Varan came up from behind. Quietly, the old man walked quietly, stood beside him. Thinking, he said. Always. Second year, what do we build first? People, said Jaewon. Varan was surprised. People? The Dare clan. Then more. Pause. There is water. There is land. People are needed who know how. Pause. One person knows one thing. 20 people know 20 different things. Together they know everything, Varan thought. You are not speaking of a clan, he said slowly. You are speaking of something greater. Maybe, said Jaewon. Of a city? Pause. The word city, Varan said in his own way. Not a city. But the meaning is that. A permanent settlement. Many people. Different skills. A market. Exchange. The first city in this desert. Maybe, Jaewon repeated. Varan looked at him. Then looked at the settlement waking up. At the Qanat murmuring. At the field turning green in the dawn light. At the first stone walls. You know, Dunvari, said Varan. I am old. I have seen much bad. Pause. Rarely have I seen good that people build. Pause. Thank you for letting me watch. Varan will see much more, said Jaewon. Maybe. Varan smiled. Truly. You are taking this habit from Hazal, speaking confidently. A good teacher. Good, Varan agreed. Dawn was flaring. The desert orange, red, alive. The Qanat murmured. Dunvari stood, looked ahead. The second year was beginning.